Rod Van Blake, author of the Ancient Illumination series, as well as Young Planet Chronicles. I'm joined once again by Andrea Rose Washington.
Hello.
She is the author of Adolithia, Elendil, and Almond Tree's Magic. And we are also joined by Jocelyn Short.
Hi.
He is a digital artist, creator, graphic designer, concept artist for all of your concept art needs. Be sure to check the link out to her website as well as to Andrea Rose Washington's Linktree so you can check out her books. And today we are talking about Star Wars Visions. May the 4th be with you, everybody out there. They just released them today, which is an anthology of short animations that I found interesting a while back. I don't know if you guys saw the first season, but
I just saw, so I had watched the wrong episodes at first that you said
okay,
to watch. So I watched the first two of the first season. I watched the first two of the second season after I realized what I had done.
okay,
But
no,
but I,
no worries. The first season was intriguing to me mainly because it was done by 7 separate Japanese animation studios. So this was going to be a different take on Star Wars, where they basically just said, "This is our world, but we're giving these studios a chance to kind of play in our sandbox." And it was unrestricted, so it wasn't like something you had to have watched Star Wars or read the books, looked at Clone Wars, all the movies, TV shows, disconnected from any of that. So you didn't really feel lost. You could just jump in wherever you jump in, which I thought was kind of an attractive feature for those that may be kind of apprehensive about jumping into something where there's so much media out there. And the fact that it was basically an art show, pretty much, to showcase different studios. But in my opinion, each episode is kind of hit or miss. It's kind of like the Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get with each one. So it could be really good, or it could be kind of off-putting and not as enjoyable for you, especially if you don't connect with the art. Um, the first episode, Sith, I liked a lot, mainly because it was pretty much a visual art show to me. It really, there was very little dialogue. It looked like a painting, like just a painting that kind of moved. It was kind of washed out with the colors mainly being a highlight. Written and directed by Rodrigo Blas. The CFX artist El Giri Studios. Pablo Dominguez was the concept artist, and Ursula Cabrero is the voice of the apprentice or the main character, the female that we see with the droid, and Louis Tozar is the voice of the Sith Master. Really interesting, washed out, almost purposely to me to look at as if it was like unfinished until like it was like underscored by pops of color as you moved along. There were themes of light and dark expressed via the context of art, and this I think was a new take, but it pretty much wasn't a show. It was almost like an art show. What did you guys think?
I thought that episode was very beautiful, just visually stunning. Um, I was really blown away by like how the whole thing was animated. It felt similar to how like Into the Spider-Verse is animated,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
where everything looks like it's been drawn on top of like a 3D model and animated. So like I'm very curious, just from an artist perspective, like how what I would love to hear the artists talk about how they went about making it. Like I'm curious with software and you know what the process was, but I thought visually it was stunning. I thought it was like a simple message, which was still like impactful, and it made me think about kind of the Star Wars universe, about like the Siths in the Star Wars universe. Like I feel like I thought at first that like it was specific characters could be like Siths and Jedis, but it seems like that is not exclusive to just any particular person. Like anybody can kind of be these things.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong about that? I'm not sure, but that's what it felt like watching some of these episodes. But this episode specifically, I just thought was visually very stunning.
Yeah, it was an art piece. Go ahead.
So the art was beautiful.
Yeah.
I like that it even looked, like you said, Rod, almost unfinished. There was a scene where like they were showing her legs, and it looked like you could see part of the brushstrokes that like created her form. And how, like, I guess as the story continued, the art continued, and it grew. So it's like it started off. Almost started off with nothing. You didn't know what you were looking at, and it was such an unfinished world. And the further you got into the episode, the more you saw it come together. Even if you didn't really fully understand why it was coming together. I have to say, not spoiler alert, but like just as a FYI, I am not a Star Wars fan. So the whole Sith part, and there's nothing wrong with Star Wars. There is literally nothing. I love lightsabers. I love them. I almost bought a $500 one at New York Comic Con. But like, it was never my thing. So like the whole Sith part was like, okay. It was, for me, it was more of the story, the visual story that they were telling. So for Sith, it was a very interesting take. Very interesting. Different from anything else I've ever seen for Star Wars, even with like the Clone Wars. I know when like it was when we had like originally spoke about season 1, like possibly doing it, I was envisioning Clone Wars, and I was just like, I really don't want to watch a cartoon about Star Wars.
You know what? I was thinking about you when I was watching it, Sierra, because like I know how into Harry Potter you are, and like I thought about like Sith, or people who have power to become Siths. I thought of it almost as if like those people are like meant to be in Slytherin house,
or the Death Dealers.
They're Death Eaters, but does not necessarily mean they're in Slytherin.
Okay, fair enough. fair enough. But okay. So this episode to me just looked like her journey was like, I'm not a Death Eater, and what she like, was kind of like except if Snape was a painter.
No, and like we're doing regular black. Snape doesn't get a redemption arc. But no, so it was. I can say it is a very visually stunning episode, and it really did remind me of Into the Spider-Verse. That's all I could think of when I was watching it. It was like, oh, this is interesting. Except it's not as done as Into the Spider-Verse, which I think made me like it a little bit more, because I guess in the beginning she doesn't really know what she's doing.
Yeah.
It seems like she's just existing in that spot, and she's painting, and we don't really know why she's painting. We don't know what it matters, because at first I thought, oh, she's painting for someone. Then we find out that she's alone. So it was like, it's like we don't know her story, and neither does she. And then as she realized, okay, we're gonna go somewhere more inhabited, it's like it starts to solidify.
I have a painter's perspective on that whole episode, or at least just the beginning part. Well, not the whole episode. So like, I related a little bit to kind of what was going on, because sometimes you paint as a way of escapism, which I feel like kind of that's probably what she was doing, but she was like, it seems like the darkness keeps trying to come out, like I can't get away from it, and sometimes, and I feel like you guys can understand this too as writers, where sometimes the stuff that you are trying to write to maybe get away from, or just like write something a better outcome for something that you don't like how it's going, it still can come out some kind of way because it has to come out. I feel like that's kind of the general kind of idea of what was happening with her when she was painting, and her past came catch up with her, even after she was just like, what's this dark stuff in this painting, and then the dark stuff just shows up at her doorstep.
She's pretty much an apprentice, obviously, from the title card and watching it. She was a Sith apprentice behind that character that destroyed whatever that beacon was she went to look at, when she thought it was a meteorite that hit it, and she had run away from him. and basically he'd come back to have her finish her training, and that's kind of hard to gauge what time this would be, because in the Old Republic there would be only two of the Sith. It would be one master and one apprentice, but he had like two homeboys and homegirls. We don't know what the genders of the two.
They're droids. Those were killer droids.
Okay, they're droids.
Yeah. Only because I read the behind the scene thing, because I was like, well, who are those people?
Yeah, because they look helmeted, so I was like,
yeah,
these two are, because I didn't know whether there were more with him. But yeah, if that's two droids, and it still fits in. I was trying to time where in the timeline this would be, because they're kind of given free reign. El Giri Studios is out of Madrid in Spain, so it was cool to see another international studio get a crack at this to see what their take would be. And I did feel like she was trying to get rid of the darkness, and the darkness was coming through in the painting as well, because you had that scene where she's basically trying to like wipe over this entire wall, and it becomes just shot through with dark. And then once the Sith Master confronts her at the end, when she changes, somehow she changes the room over, and it becomes this big white like canvas with splashes of color. And he's like, "This is what you left for." And then he does something where he, pushes forward, and darkness comes back. There were lots of beautiful vistas in this, especially when she goes to check out the satellite or whatever that was, and when the whole color palette turned to be like completely orange or red when she turned to face them behind her.
Yeah.
This, I think, is the best of Visions and what it can be. And I saw the same thing similarly with the Japanese studios in the previous season. And like I said, these episodes are kind of hit and miss. The second episode, which we'll talk about in a bit, was a miss for me, mainly because it was kind of more of the same. It didn't take the leaps creatively that this episode did. Like you said, very different from a lot of the things I've seen before. It wasn't like other animations. I like the art direction. The style of the art was very cool. Had to have been expensive because of the CGI involved, but less so because there's two actors to voice act, and maybe they did motion cap on a few of them.
And it was only like 15 minutes long versus doing it for like the entire 2-hour block.
Yeah, so as a creator, I'm curious. I'm like, how much was this to pull off? I wonder if we could make something like this along that vein within the worlds that we've created. It would be cool to find out. But yeah, it was very well done. And very different from most things, which I think made it kind of stand apart, which is what kind of made the contrast when I went to the next episode kind of, in my eyes, disappointing.
Can we go to the next episode? Because can we venture off into the next episode? Because I have some words about that one.
I bet you do. And it was that one's Lucasfilm. So I was like, no, we don't need to do. We have everything from Lucasfilm and Disney. This was a good opportunity for me, in my opinion, to have other studios kind of shine, which is what the last season did. Like I said, I didn't relate to all of the episodes in season 1. There were 9 episodes, I believe, in that season. But they were well done. And again, it was a different presentation than the stuff that we were used to. Like you said, Andrea, I didn't want to see just 9 extra episodes of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
That's what this was going to be. Like, no, we've kind of seen that. I don't need that. It's not anything different. Why are we giving me this? And this was one of the bright spots, at least. I've only watched the first 2. I haven't ventured on it and done the rest in case we discuss them as well. But this was a highlight to me. But yeah, any other thoughts? How do you think about the action in that we got? The action that we got in it.
In the first one or the second one?
First one.
The action was interesting because of the art style. Mm-hmm. So like the lightsabers didn't move it, like they didn't look exactly like I thought they would, because it was more like brush strokes than like fine lines. Yeah. So it was different.
The chemtrails from the jetpacks when they flew off after her, jumped on her cycle, were kind of like brush strokes as well.
So it was different. Not bad, just different.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I found myself, just because, like you said, because the art was so visually stunning, I felt myself like really paying attention to like each moment that was a picture. So like, you know, frame by frame by frame, I like was making my eyes slow down what was happening so I could like see. I was studying it. I was like, how can I put this in what I'm doing?
Yeah.
But I thought it was, yeah, I thought the action was very interesting because of how it looked. I thought that her making her own lightsaber was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how that functions in this world. Like, is that like a common thing that people do? Like, they can craft their own lightsabers, or was this just like an offshoot kind of idea that they just put in here? I thought, you know, her thing was yellow and it was curved, and I was like, that's new. What's that
Mhm.
about? So I was curious about that.
Yeah, and that's kind of a divergence from the Sith because traditionally they would have all of them would have a red lightsaber. And really what she did once she ignited the second half as the battle grew on, the other half was red. So
Mhm.
the new half was the yellow. And yeah, that would be something that every Sith and every Jedi, in fact, as well, it's part of their progression is to get to the point where they can build and construct their own lightsaber. They find their crystal, they put it together, and make sure that it functions well. So when he saw the yellow one, it was like, oh, you've created your own. So she's in his eyes had progressed to the point where she could create her own. So I don't know if maybe he had made the first one for her that was red. Like this is what you get. This is your color, and we're gonna rock like that. And so okay, on your own, you've made your own. And part of that also revealed that she kind of had to embrace both sides of her. And that's when she uses both the yellow and the red to kind of combat him. You like you're about to say something, Andrea.
Like, clarifying question again, because, and I will say, I have seen all of the Star Wars movies. Like, I've seen all of them. Still
Okay.
don't. Just over my head. The Siths are the bad guys, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm like, I was so confused in the very beginning when I started watching it. So I was just like, okay, so you gave up being a bad guy, but you're still a bad guy because when her other half ignited as red, I was like, so are you still a bad guy? Because wouldn't you not be using a red one? Wouldn't it not be red anymore if she was no longer a bad guy?
No, it's not
When
going to change the color of it. Just like a Sith could pick up a regular blue lightsaber, it's not going to change red in the hands. The crystal inside is what makes the color.
Oh.
about to be like, was it a Wreck-It Ralph situation where it was like, just because she's a bad guy doesn't mean she's a bad guy?
So I thought it was like their intentions change the colors because again, I have not gone deep into this world. I thought it was like their intentions showed the color. That's why like you had green and blue or like red, not
No,
because it was a crystal that was that color.
it's different color crystals, and lore has changed over time. Where before it was just a synthetic crystal for the Sith, and then recent after Disney took it over, they changed it so that the Sith had to put some of their essence into the crystal to bleed it basically to make it red. Um, and while the Jedi were searching for these natural crystals, which would be green, yellow, blue, or orange in their natural state,
Purple.
or purple because Sam Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber when he came over. So that was pretty cool. He got to choose his own color as a part of the deal, put it in his contract. But
So yeah, that was my only confusing part. I was just like, why is it still red if you're like not a Sith anymore?
yeah, it would still be red. But this
Because
was
it's still darkness in our heart, in our
yeah,
heart pits.
yeah.
Okay, we're not gonna get into that debate because this would be more of me just asking Star Wars questions and everyone listening would just be like, not the time.
Yeah. It is an interesting dichotomy. She apparently had forsaken the ways of the Sith and wanted to just kind of ride off in the sunset. It's kind of like the gang. Like, homie, you can't just stop being the gang member. There's only one way out.
Let out.
Yeah. He even tells her like the only way you can escape is to become a Sith master. Basically, defeat him to become the master because that's the way the Sith work. Like you become a master by destroying your master, and then you have to go out and find your apprentice, and the cycle just kind of continues. Um,
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
You can only become a master by killing your master. Why would I ever take an apprentice?
I feel like she probably didn't opt in. She, you know.
Maybe that's why she left. She's like,
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to do any of this.
I'm cool. I didn't know about that part of the contract. I'm gonna have to renege. I'm gonna see y'all later.
If I was the master, I'm like, forget those kids. Not today. I'm gonna live forever.
Man, showing up at her doorstep like, kill me. I'm ready to die.
Yeah, maybe you get to that point. Yeah. This was a cool episode. Since like I said, the sponsor got changed and taken away since Anchor changed over to Spotify for podcasters. We're going to talk about Tough Raps. Go to toughraps.com if you still want to support the channel. The discount code for 10% off is Jacked Writer. JACKEDWRITER, Jacked Writer, for all you health conscious nerds out there that want to get your workout on and help your knees and your wrist wraps. That's what I get most of the time in t-shirts, cool stuff like that. Toughraps.com. Now let's move on to episode 2, Screechers Reach, which was by Lucasfilm. Was it Cartoon Saloon and Lucasfilm Animation? This to me was a miss. It was odd. The art style was not all that unique to me. It was more of the same. Thematically, it was okay. Basically, this was kind of the haunted house trope, just set in some weird, way off sci-fi land with Star Wars trappings that you really don't get until kind of the very end. You see a group of kids that are in like some type of mine. The art style was okay. It wasn't bad art. Let me get that out of the way. It wasn't bad art. It just wasn't very unique to me.
I feel like they messed up by putting this after episode 1 because episode 1 has such a unique and different art style. And you're like, oh my gosh, visually it's stunning. And then you go to this and you're just like, this is on Cartoon Network. What are we doing? And not to say, again, it was not bad art. It was just compared to what, like, this should have been episode 1. And then, like, the other one should have been episode 2. Because, like, you never want someone's expectation to lower. You want their expectations to rise.
Yeah.
And I felt like my expectations lowered in both the story format and the art format because it just wasn't as good as episode 1, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And it was one of their own. I felt like, let the other studios play. Lucasfilm, why you gotta...
I don't feel as bad now that knows Lucasfilms that did this. Because I was like, oh God, I don't want to like hurt some like small... I don't feel as bad anymore.
let one of the other studios play and be unique because you already own it. So why are you jumping in? And if you're going to jump in, then you better jump in with a banger. That's my opinion. Like, yeah, you better jump in with a banger. Don't jump in with no mid stuff in your own when you're letting other studios outdo you in your own stuff. That don't make no sense to me. And was it me or did they have like a weird like Irish accent, like the characters for Screechers Reach?
They did have an accent. I can't place if it was Irish or not.
Yeah.
I'll say the story felt really rushed to me.
Yeah. It was a play. You said you saw the original Star Wars?
Yeah, I've seen all the movies.
Okay.
Except the very last one, but I've seen all the movies. So
Empire Strikes Back, where Luke Skywalker goes into the cave to basically face his demons, was basically what this was to me. They got a group of kids that are they're going to this haunted area or this cave that they're not supposed to go to. Everybody's afraid of it. It's like the broken down house when that little kids see the broken down house at the end of the street that is rumored to be haunted and like, don't go over there, Mr. Johnson's yard. Something's wrong with that house. That was what this kind of felt like to me. And you got this one kid who's stubborn, who feels that they want to do something greater. And for whatever reason, that something greater is going up to this Screechers Reach haunted cave thing and is going to confront their demons in order to come out the other side the better for it. What it seemed like to me. But it was basically like when Yoda tells Luke to go into the cave, and what are you going to see in there? You can't take any weapons. You just take yourself.
So I have an opposing view.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
I mean, you're wrong, but okay.
That's fine.
Just messing.
I mean, I'm not necessarily going to say that the episode was extraordinary by any means.
Okay.
But I thought that, I thought it was very interesting. I liked the art style a lot. It reminded me of this game called Wildermyth, which is like a D&D kind of game that you can play with your friends, and the art style is very much like pop-up book. And I felt like the art style was like pop-up book, like reminiscent of like childhood, of innocence. And I felt like that was like that art style was carrying the motif of like leading up to kind of the betrayal at the end of the episode, which this episode made me really sad. I was really sad at the end of it.
Really?
Yeah. And to be fair, I haven't seen all the Star Wars movies yet, so like this felt, not saying like it's like it's a brand new idea or concept by any means, but it's still, I got what they were. I picked up what they was putting down. Okay, I felt what they was trying to portray. Like I felt sad at the end because like the family is just like, all right, we're just gonna go where you're telling us to go, all right, and then the main character gets through the end of that cave or whatever, kills the screecher, and I feel like they didn't know that was that what they were killing was like a real thing, a real person that they were killing. All right. And so I feel like that was like a shift of like, oh shit, like maybe I'm turning bad or something. Like maybe that's bad. Okay. And then like the ship comes, and then it's like this reveal to the rest of the family, like, oh yeah, I did this because this sucks. Like I have to leave. I'm leaving you. And I don't know, it was just heartbroken for the family. So it was just sad. It was sad. Like it felt like the childhood picture book was being torn up at the end. So maybe I'm taking it too far, but that's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how
It's kind of, I can see that it's kind of a disconnect because with so little time, I think this one was also like 16 minutes, so there's not much time to give us as much story to flesh everything out. I didn't get the feeling that the kids were all related, but that they just hung out there. Like
they were like their own little family of friends.
Their own little group. And my thing is like they at the end they seem not to know that you've been communicating with this person. I feel like the cave thing was a test put there purposely to ensnare someone, whoever's going to be badass enough to come in there and fight this thing and get this saber, because that's what she ends up getting. We're not really given names of the person that comes in off the ship, but she like pushes the lightsaber hilt to her like, this is yours now. Like you've earned this, and now you must come with me on this path. And obviously it's a path down the dark side because you see the red lightsaber that you took and all that.
It's the Sith mother.
Sith mother? Okay.
Yeah.
But the other kids seem to be taken aback. Like they don't like who this. They don't know who that is. Like you didn't tell me you was talking to nobody off planet. They come in their little fancy ship to take you away. Like you can't just what's going on here? The littlest one is all crying. Everybody's got tears welling up. It was kind of a sad moment, but
I felt their betrayal. I was like, oh my God, like you're leaving us and you're leaving us to be like a bad person, like, and kill people. Dang.
But they may not know. They may not know of the Sith because they've been kind of secretive for so many years. Like a lot of people think they're a myth that they don't actually exist. So just same thing with the Jedi when they disappeared for a long period of time. So it may be that they've been on this little mining colony and just stayed there and didn't know that this was real stuff. And all of a sudden the spaceship comes up. My homegirl that's been with me for all the time we've lived here is walking out this cave with a lightsaber talking about you leaving. Like,
so the dead part inside of me, because we all know Andrea's dead inside. I felt happy that she was gone. I was like, go ahead, little girl, because I didn't like her. Daal, Daal, whatever her name was. I didn't like her. I was like, first of all, if you didn't want your friends to come, you should have just said don't come because you ditched them every single chance you got. It was very. I understand you want more for your life because even her one of the older friends was like, I know you want more for this. At that point, I would have just been like, don't come with me because I don't know what I'm going to see, but this is something I need to do on my own.
Yeah.
It was. I didn't like her, so
Love, man. No,
I was sort of hoping she was going to not survive this episode.
Oh wow.
But she was getting pulled down. I was like, oh, okay, bye-bye. And it's like, oh, she survived it.
How do you
I mean, to be fair, you know, she
Andrea
did.
is the dark side. What are you talking about? You want her to die? Like
I wasn't rooting for her death. I just would not have been sad if it happened.
okay, that's still kind of dark right there. Like
She put the kids in danger. She did tell them like, no, wait, go back. Like, don't follow me all the way up in here. But she could have left them all the way out the cave. You're like, they didn't have to
told them don't come.
Yeah,
Just don't come. And then for her to cry, leaving, can my friends come too? And it's just like, you don't, and like, if you're gonna be bad, you be bad, but don't bring your other friends down this road with you.
I wonder if she knew what was happening.
No,
like,
she didn't.
Okay,
but that doesn't excuse it.
Well, she knew she was talking to something in her necklace, but I don't think she knew it was the Sith that she was talking to.
Yeah, but my thing is, you don't know exactly what you're signing up for. That doesn't mean you sign me up for it too. Like,
yeah,
you come along. Like, no, if you don't know what you're doing, don't bring me into that because now I'm a party to something that might go really bad. And because we all from the outside looking in know that the Sith are bad, and yes, that's it's going to be a bad journey. And from the previous episode, you know how you're going to take over. You said the Sith mother. So the only way she's going to become the Sith mother is to kill Sith mother. So what's going to happen to her friends? So one of them, like I said, it's only supposed to be 2. So it's a war of attrition after a while to become master.
It's and it also made me like the fact that the Sith mother looked so friendly. Like, come on. Like, that's just false advertisement because the Sith are the bad people.
Right, as soon as
not looking like a mom that she needs and like for love and attention.
As soon as the ship showed up on screen, I was like, oh no. Like, it's triangle pointing down, I was like, oh, it's bad. And then we get closer and then the whole thing is just a pointy tip pointing down. It's just like, it's bad news. Everything's red. I'm like, oh my God. It's a bad time. It's a bad time. It's bad news.
Or it's a good time. You don't know.
I'm happy for her friends.
It's a good time.
I'm happy for her friends that they lost her because they didn't need that bad influence in their life anymore.
And it's interesting to say that because like the dude who's holding the kid, while they were crying.
Baython.
Say it, spell it. What's his name?
Baython.
Baython.
Okay. Baython. Yeah, he wasn't crying. He looked like disappointed.
He knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, fine. Just fine, You're
gonna leave us. We know one day you're gonna leave us on this dust ball of a planet. Go on and do your thing.
I'll raise these kids myself. All by myself.
Well, one of us enjoyed it, Jocelyn. You sound like you liked it.
I did. I felt like the whole episode to me represented like a loss of innocence, and which I thought was really interesting.
I can see that. Mm-hmm. And I see the loss of innocence of the 3 innocent people because Dal can go away.
She lost her innocence too, and like her innocence was naivety. Like she was very naive about the whole thing. And so I feel like her meeting the Sith mother and, killing this creature, I feel like all of that was just like very fast progressive steps towards her complete loss of innocence, and then like her leaving was like the absolute severance, of her connection to everything that was innocent in her life. So
I will say I do, to repeat what I said earlier. F them kids. No, but really, that I do feel like this story was very rushed, and I think if they were able to maybe do a two-parter or something else, it may have worked better for me. But because it was so rushed, and I came into this not caring about any of them, because like most episodes give you like the first episode you can start to get to know the characters, start being invested in their story. But these being so short, the storylines also need to be short, so that way it doesn't seem like too much, like too much too soon. And for this one, it's like we got a whole journey of them traveling, them taking a break at a firelight, them in the cave, them trying to search, the battle, and then her leaving, was just all so quick that we never, at least for me, I never had a chance to care about her. And it was just going in like, oh, you selfish. Okay. Okay. So it was, maybe if it was like a two-parter, then maybe I might start to care, but I just felt like it was very rushed.
That's going to be difficult, like you said, because of the time restriction, which is almost better served to have episodes executed more like the first one, where it's just a
simple line
showcase for the most part, very little dialogue, very little build up, because a few minutes later it's going to be gone. It's over, and you're not going to get to connect as much with the individual characters. And I think the longest episode is like 24 minutes, maybe. So they're not very long. It's not going to be long journeys. You're going to be in and out real quickly with each story. So you're either going to like it or you're not. You're either going to relate to it or not and get what you get from it. Like I said, I didn't think this was bad, but kind of like Andrea said, it was kind of a drop off when you start with Sith, and then when you careen into Screecher's Reach. For me, it was kind of a letdown. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, this wasn't as unique as the first one. The story is kind of generic, although I could follow it very easily. Had kind of tropes that I could relate to because I've seen them before. And it was almost like a weird prequel of the first episode. Like, this kid, Doll, is going to become a Sith apprentice to the Sith mother. And then we see in the first episode, they've already been through their apprenticeship, got to the point where they didn't want to live that life, and then left already. Mm-hmm. So we see a kind of a much older version of the similar type of character. Like if Doll grew up, became a Sith, and was like, nah, this ain't for me, left. That's what you were left with the first episode, except for the visuals just spoke to me so much more in the first episode. And I'm hoping that Disney is giving the opportunity to other studios to play a lot more in this sandbox to see if we can get some variance on what we get. That's just my take on it.
Agreed.
I also like the art style in that episode just because it reminded me of the Babadook a little bit.
Of what?
The Babadook. I don't know if you guys have seen that horror movie.
No, if it's horror, probably not.
Okay, fair enough. In that movie, the Babadook is obviously the villain, but like in the beginnings of the movie, the Babadook is in a children's book. It's not a good children's book. It's a horrifying children's book. But the art style reminded me of that. So, okay. So it gave me, those vibes were present. And I was like, ooh.
You talking about in Screecher's Reach in that episode? Okay, yeah. I'll have to check that out and compare that. He's like, no, I'm not.
Nah. Fair enough. I was never a horror person. I'm still kind of not, but I am more so now than I've ever been. And it's still not a lot, but I've seen some really good horror movies. The Babadook is a really good horror movie. I would still watch it with all the lights on and muted, but it's still good.
Okay, that's different. Like I said, I'll check it out and see if I get those same vibes. I wanted to thank you both for taking time out of your day, chopping it up and talking more about these things. Once again, may the 4th be with y'all. For everybody that caught us on the live, don't forget to check the description of the episode. There will be Andrea Rose Washington's link tree to her website, and so you can get her books and whatnot. Also, the link to Jocelyn Short's website, so you can check out her art. We're looking very much looking forward to her Bearers series coming out. And she also did a Mother of Darkness concept art for me in my Umbani series. And we're about to hopefully get to work on some other concepts. The website, link to my website will be there as well. I guess that's it. Check us out, and we will talk to
May
you.
the fourth be
May
with
the
you.
fourth be with you. She's doing her live long and prosper thing because that's how she gets down. Oh, and don't forget Trekking Beyond, her
A
podcast.
Star Trek podcast.
There you go. That's releasing as well, so you can check them out. Also on Spotify for podcasters. We will check you all out next week. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.